acclaimed author Clive Cussler.
The hero Dirk Pitt.
Pit stop. Pit stop. Pit stop. Pit stop. Pit stop is up and coming.
Pit stop. The Stone of Fire episode. With Topper and Nancy, and special guests Zach and Stevie of the Escapist Room podcast.
Bonus episode, fucking cat.
Dropping every day. I'm having my girl lunch, so I'm like trying not to chomp in the, cereal and like random cheese. That was my lunch.
Mine is a nice, healthy pineapple.
Oh, nice.
Oh, in liquid form. I had a banana.
Yeah, I just sent my husband to the grocery store with the list, so otherwise there's no food in my house.
Oh, if I even go shopping with my husband, we just come home with cookies and firecrackers.
Right.
He's the worst influence.
Mine is chips.
That's not even a joke. I have a picture on my phone of a cart full of just candy, cookies, and firecrackers.
Tracks.
Oh gosh.
That's why we had to eat fancy brunch yesterday before going to Costco, because we were worried about the outcome otherwise.
Well, Costco's a trap, man.
You can't shop hungry. And
No.
certainly not at Costco. You will not have any money left. I don't care how much you start with.
Yeah.
You go in there hungry as a billionaire, you're going to come out a pauper.
Why did I need this 20-pound bag of rice?
Yeah, we only went in for like 4 things, and it was still
yeah.
$260.
Every time.
Jesus Christ.
We got more than 4 things. To be fair, we have kids who don't stop eating.
What's my excuse?
Well, humans do need to consume.
Right. It's true. Not 2 people for 20-pound bag of rice. That just is excessive.
Look, this is all your fault.
Oh, look at him. Yeah, I can't close my door because the cat will get all angry.
The rice thing, you have to throw out leftover rice. You can poison yourself. So just,
Right.
there you go. You're not poisoning yourself. We should always start that off. We should cut it off there and then start. And that's how you're not poisoning yourself. Welcome to Cussler Hustlers. I am your co-host, Nancy. Over there is co-host Topper.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are actually, Topper, take it away. I'm going to not shake. I'm going to have some ginger ale.
And the cat is already back. And today we are doing another fun pit stop episode. Fun in quotes, your mileage may vary. But depending when this comes out, this will either be our first or second crossover episode with the Escapist Room podcast.
Ooh, they are a brother and sister podcast that review movies from their childhood, and it is lovely. Listeners, go out, listen to this podcast. It's amazing, and it's like a taste of home with sarcasm.
Well, thank you, Nancy. I
It's like
appreciate
country living with sarcasm.
Bless your heart.
I think that's a compliment.
It is. It is.
That's funny.
So please, introduce yourselves. Talk about your podcast.
Oh, sure.
Pimp your pimpables.
I'm Stevie, and like Nancy said, we are a brother and sister team that we decided to do a podcast about movies that really just resonate with us, things from our childhood, things that we just really enjoy. So yeah, it's basically just an excuse for us to hang out together and talk about stuff that doesn't matter because life is heavy otherwise.
And I am Zach. I am her erstwhile brother. Maybe not erstwhile. That would be not accurate. I'm still her brother. But we watch movies and we make goofs, and that's our show.
Yeah.
We read books and make goofs. A match made in heaven.
And you are way, way funnier than we could ever hope to be. So
Oh, that is not true.
Nancy
not
is way,
true.
way funnier.
Yes. Yes.
No, I'm
agreed.
just crazy. And that's how we got here.
And that's why you're here.
Nancy makes me laugh so hard.
Oh,
On the other crossover episode, which will be hosted on their feed, we did a movie that appeals to both of our sensibilities. We did Uncharted, which is the action-adventure searching for world treasure, lost treasure.
Very similar to this book, actually, in multiple ways.
So on our podcast, we focus a lot on the action adventure. We love this genre. And that's why we came upon you guys, because we have a nostalgia for the Cussler books and all the adventure, fantasy, sci-fi stuff.
Yes, I misspoke when I said movies of your childhood. It's movies that, some from your childhood and some modern, but like goofy adventure.
Yes.
Has to be
Yes.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Godzilla. Always Godzilla.
Oh, I love Godzilla.
Excellent.
Monsters, robots, and punching.
My kids make fun of me for how much I like Godzilla.
Listen, there is no shame.
There's no shame.
And the Escapist Room got to the other Cussler movie, Sahara, before we did. So we might have to have you guys back on for the final episode of Sahara when we finish the book and then talk about the movie.
Yes, definitely.
Oh.
I was going to request that. I was like, you got to have us back when we talk about Sahara, because that
Excellent.
is Zach and I's favorite movie of all time. Well, don't give me that look.
I can give you that look.
Zach gave me that look.
But for this episode, we're doing a book crossover that appeals to both of our, perhaps not appeals to our sensibilities. In theory, it should appeal to our sensibilities, but it's an action adventure looking for ancient treasure, trying to stop the apocalypse book called Stone of Fire by J.F. Penn. And for some reason, we all bought a copy of this book, and we all seem to have different printings with different chapter counts. So this is going to be a little chaotic.
Yep.
In theory, the same book, though.
Did anybody get justified in the middle, where the paragraphs start in the middle and run off the page?
No, did that happen to you?
With a Cussler book, for sure.
That's funny.
She's gotten some weird printings.
I've got some. Yeah, I had one that was half German, half French, like depending on which way you read it.
Huh.
So the original publication was in 2011, so that'll be first edition, and my copy is the third edition from 2015. So like I have 44 chapters, and then Topper texted the group chat and he said he had
They must be
25.
bullet fast. It's got to be like a sentence.
Oh yeah, some of them aren't even a page.
The fourth edition from 2022. Even so, some chapters are like 4 pages long.
Most of my chapters were 2 or 3 pages maximum.
And I didn't mind that so much because it was kind of a quick read, and it was like, okay, I have 10 minutes here. I'm going to read this chapter and make notes on it. So it kind of worked out. I didn't mind.
This book is on the move. It has places to go.
Yeah, it is constantly moving. This book is racking up airline miles like crazy.
Right?
Well, one of the reasons we wanted to do this book, well, we talked about it, all 4 of us, is that like you guys are stuck in that like super gross doodly. Clive is nearly unconscionable in some places, and I thought it'd be interesting if we did.
And lovable in others. Lovable in others.
Sure.
He loves something.
I need 10% more commitment on that. Sure, Zach.
Re-listening to your podcast, I haven't read a Clive Cussler for like 10 years, but like when I was a child, because they had like kids versions of like Shockwave, Mediterranean Caper, and I believe Inca Gold in like Scholastic Book Fair. I kind of got hooked into it, and my mother, in her wisdom, decided that it would be okay for a 7th grader or 6th grader to read any Clive Cussler book at all because I got it from the book fair. I ended up reading these books, and I had no recollection of some of the contents. And like re-listening to your podcast, like the super early ones are very, very rough. I can probably quote you the plots of some of the later ones, but this, I just listened. What was you did Deep Six this week? It's just
Oh yeah, Deep Six episode 1 came out yesterday.
But there's some age-appropriate women in Deep Six. Listeners, behold, their new turn, age-appropriate women in Deep Six. They don't live very long, but
No.
they're there.
Oh my god.
Ow, 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 ow.
Oh, and now Podcat is maiming
Sorry.
pod host
God.
Topper.
I kind of got
Dude, just throw the cat at the camera.
distracted though. The reason we wanted to read this is because this is an adventure novel. It falls firmly in the adventure category. It's written by a independent female author, and I thought it'd be interesting to see the difference between like Clive's super doodliness and if like maybe it was more enjoyable for Stevie and Nancy to read or talk about a book that doesn't have like constant, like very, very lurid descriptions of people's buttocks and stuff.
Oh.
I was shaking the book. I held it upside down. I hit it with a bat. No sex came out of this book. So it is
was
safe.
not sexy at all.
There was a face lick.
Yeah. Oh, and there was a kiss with a brother-in-law, which I was like, ew, your brother-in-law. Ugh.
Gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've known my brother-in-law since I was like 9. So
Sorry, I'm back.
keep it PG, Topper.
So we have a trade that grows sprouts, and the podcast decided to have an angry nap in it just now.
Oh no.
No.
I'm going to jump right in here into the prologue. One thing that's different is we meet Sister Aruna Maria, and she's elderly. And a woman writer writing an elderly woman, I think she's in her 80s or 90s. A male writer, she's 45. So
Right?
Yeah.
that's one difference off the bat. And Sister Aruna is a keeper, and we learn a keeper is a person who has a stone from the apostles that was broken up during the Holocaust of the, what was it called?
The Pentecost?
Pentecost?
Yes, the Pentecost. The Holocaust of the Pentecost.
I'm not sure that's Holocaust related.
Pentecost?
No.
Two very different
Well, there's
things.
different types of Holocaust. There's a Holocaust cloak. Yeah, yes, make it European. So this lady, Sister Maria, has got this stone. She wears it as most of them do, as a piece of jewelry around her neck. And she is known for being at this convent, but that notoriety doesn't pay off. She sees some Americans, she assumes, paying off the convent abbess. So she knows upon seeing that exchange of money with no goods being returned, she's like, oh, they sold me out. She just instinctively knows. And they turn over the convent looking for her, and they, being that she's elderly, they chase her through the streets of India, knock her over, and take the stone. The weather is going bananas.
Once she's knocked over, and the American, which is a phrase that appears a lot in the first few chapters here, the American, like, night crawlers in front of her, cuts her off, knocks her down. She starts saying all these prayers as the Pentecost stone is taken. And I can't tell if the fireballs and columns of flame that she's seeing from the skies are metaphorical or real, because it doesn't stop the Americans from beating the crap out of her and torturing her and very shortly killing her.
Well, very few things stop us Americans from violence, right?
Accurate.
You're not going to let God get in your way.
Absolutely not.
No, and when they finally strike her to death, like it's a pillar of fire emits from her body or from her location that goes up and it makes the news. Like the BBC has a report on it. Pillar of fire seen in India. No further details needed because it's far, far away.
Because we later learn that something to do with the stones and the radiation from a comet, which I had to ask myself, how do comets work? Because comets are usually big balls of ice. So how does that big ball of ice have very specific radiation? But I feel like sometimes in this book, some things are metaphorical and some things are real. Like her prayer, she did have metaphorical fire from heaven, and I don't know if the fire from heaven is actually harmful. Because we see a pillar of fire later that isn't the thing that destroys something, it's a different storm that destroys something. So you never know if it's actually like really harmful or if it's just like weird beams of light.
Yeah. In that news clipping about the flames that were seen over Varanasi in India, they're also talking about people who were blind their whole life can suddenly see. People who were near the fire got miraculously healed.
Because of radiation.
Radiation from space. That makes it science.
And it works just like it would a 1950s monster movie. It literally is a placeholder for anything. So the whole gimmick of the book is that the stone that covered up Jesus' tomb, which I totally forgot. I read this book like 2 years ago. I totally forgot how religious-y it was. It's not a Jesus-y book, but it's very much a book that's all centered on religion. But apparently, the disciples broke the stone that covered Jesus' tomb into 12 separate stones, and then they wore them around, and on the day of Pentecost, when there was fire from heaven and like they spoke in multiple tongues or whatever, people were healed. Apparently the stones glowed, and they were given they imbued with power. And we later find out that
medicinal holy power of some kind.
Later we find out that it's not holy power, and I kind of like that. In a different book that would be a little less handled well, it would have just been God is real. But like this, she was able to keep it a little nebulous. Like, is it actually divine, or is it just a reaction between the radiation from this comet that only came into orbit of Earth at 33 AD, and now it's coming back? And so the whole thing is that these stones were hidden, and now somebody, a nefarious, dark, shadowy organization, wants to collect the stones for nefarious, dark, shadowy means.
I guess in this prologue, I was very disturbed by how many dead people there were. It's like, why are all these dead people here? Why are all these pyres? Because they talk about all these pyres burning. I'm like, okay, this is what this book is. All right, let's go.
Oh, I think that was near a river that was rather regular Indian
it's like
burials.
literally on the Ganges.
Okay, so that's a normal.
That's a location.
Okay, so I guess that was just me being dumb. I was like, wait,
No.
what is happening? What is there? Some kind of apocalypse? Is there some kind of war?
But it's also weird because
missing a
tourists are
conflict?
there, and tourists do go there and like clap at the dead people. Like, oh, you lost your mom. I'm so happy.
Yay, they're on fire.
Well, they'll be different in the cycle of reincarnation. You get a different past and different karma every time you get respawned, so you'll be all right. And so so that's a great thing to talk about. The author of this book is English, and so she is obviously a world-traveled person and obviously highly educated because of this city in India, Varanasi, I believe it was called. That's a real place. It's a real thing that happens. And I did like the idea that somebody's not just pulling something that seemed shocking or lurid because it was different and shocking. She did state the difference, and it is stated a little bit later in the book of that lady was a Catholic nun in India, so she was not, people were not friends with her. The Hindus kind of just tolerated her, the Sikhs kind of just tolerate her, and we see that happens later in the book, and it's kind of really nice that it's not just a rose-tinted, oh yeah, those guys are fine, everybody's fine, we like everybody. There was tension, and the prologue was a really, really good display of tension. It was kind of scary. She got knocked out, and then she wakes up completely bound, and she cannot move, and they're just carrying her to a pyre to be burned alive. It's pretty awesome.
That was the most tension the book will have.
Yeah.
Sorry, that might be just me.
Those damn Catholics.
Oh, God.
You can cut that out. I just was like...
And Stevie comes out guns blazing. All right.
That was sarcasm.
Burn the nuns. Burn them.
Stevie will fight the Pope at the time and place of his choosing.
Hats on or hats off?
Oh, hats on. I'm a fabulous, like a fabulous, what do you call them? Not dusters, but you know what I mean.
We'll get you one of those,
Fascinator.
World War I helmets with a protrusion at the top. Something pointy.
Oh, I was thinking like a fabulous fascinator, like the Queen wears.
Oh,
yeah.
Fascinator. You very British.
Yeah.
Cool. For those that don't know, a fascinator is a ridiculous lady's hat.
Yes.
I suppose it could be worn by any gender, but traditionally it's for fussy ladies at British tea parties.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them look like toilet seats occasionally.
They're fabulous.
And it's called a fascinator just because it's a wild hat and it's fascinating that someone will wear it.
Yes. You nailed it.
It's a distraction.
You nailed it.
They look like peacocks or bowls of fruit. Or...
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
I have to send everyone the toilet seat fastener hat now.
So if we all have notes broken down by chapter, should we just alternate chapter by people?
Sure, and I'll just find where you guys are.
Are yours not broken by... Ow.
Oh, mine are
Chapter.
broken by chapter, but I have 45 and you have 25.
You have the wrong
So-
chapter.
Yes.
You have literally double the chapters that we all have.
And yet the book is the same length. All right, chapter 1. We meet our plucky main character, Morgan Sierra. She's at her desk, writing some notes, and they're trying to establish in the first paragraph that she's a boring academic who works at Oxford. and she's waiting to have a meeting with the American. And we get like a huge info dump about her history in Israel growing up there, her double major in psychology and religion when she got out of the IDF, talk about her history fighting in the Golan Heights, which is not Israel, with her husband Elion, and she was joyous in the adrenaline of battle, blah, blah, blah. And then she has her meeting with the American, and a gunfight breaks out immediately.
And she also has a really cool skylight library. This thing sounded amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
It did sound very nice and cozy. Decadent and cozy.
Miss Penn does one hell of a job doing some really nice work creating atmosphere and creating really nice descriptions of places to be.
Mm-hmm.
There was one specifically...
I think that's the best part.
Yeah, there's some wonderful prose in here. There's specifically her office, and then there's another place they go later that is just described this just gorgeous place. And like the final scene in my book, when they go to put the stones to bed or whatever because they need sleepy time in the Raiders of the Lost Ark vault, it's just described very, very nicely and beautifully. I thought she does a great job of just like scene setting.
She does, but she does have a really odd view of divorce and custody arrangements. Like, what in the Parent Trap? We learn...
Yeah, oh yeah, okay.
We learn in this chapter that Morgan has a twin, and the twin was raised by her mom in England, while she was raised by her father in Israel.
You split everything 50-50.
Yeah, everything? That's
messed up.
like, no, we're gonna keep them together and...
You get half the kids, you get half the religion, you get half the guns.
It's the whole Solomon thing. Just chop them down the middle.
And not just switch... You have whole children. You can just switch them every 6 months.
Right? There you go.
That one will let you have fun Lindsay Lohan jeeps. There's no twin magic in this movie because the twins do not look like each other at all. They're fraternal twins. Because apparently that's how genes work. You just get all the Israeli genes, and then one person gets all the English genes. Like, one person is very, very Semitic looking, and the other person is extremely, like, Anglo looking.
I don't think that's how nature versus nurture works.
Hey, man, comets are giving us radiation, you know.
Yeah, talk about radiation. There's 7 sets of twins being graduated this year from my local school.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, goodness.
7 sets.
Radiation indeed.
I think we had 1.
Wow.
One thing I did kind of want to point out was, like, that it comes up many, many times in this book how much she enjoys combat and being in life-threatening danger and killing people. Which, for me, if I'm going to have a hero, like, my archetype for a hero that I want, that is my platonic ideal of a hero, is MacGyver. You know, and nobody's ever going to be MacGyver, but you are intelligent, resourceful. Do not kill. You don't kill the bad guys unless it's the last, final bad guy that needs their glorious death. You know what I mean? But in these books, you kind of do have to. A friend of our podcast, Logan, he has tried to impress upon me over the years, because we're both adventure junkies, that, like, you cannot have a protagonist in a modern setting that is just a person thrust into a wild circumstance. You do, because you are going to be dealing with mercenaries. You are going to be dealing with, like, gunfights, firefights, active physical action. And they do kind of have to establish that she is trained in
Krav
Maga. She's trained in, like, the IDF is one of the most highly trained militaries in the world. So, like, there is that, but I don't find that compelling personally as a reader.
In this first chapter, when the window is broken and she hears gunshots, she immediately drops down and pops open the secret compartment on her desk, which has a loaded Barak SP-21 in it.
Yes, and
she was waiting for this day to happen.
Meanwhile, she's supposed to be a professor at Oxford.
Nope.
She's a professor of
She's like, gunfire, yes.
religious psychology, which is what Miss Penn, the author, is. So, right, what you know, I suppose, but that doesn't really come up.
I feel like she made up her own major and had to do independent study for that one.
So I appreciated that she was very multifaceted, because a lot of the times we get from these characters in these male authored stories like this, we get the one-dimensional woman. They're just single dimension. And this woman, she cares about her family, she's focused, she's educated, and she's also a badass lady. I really appreciated that about her, but I did feel bad because she makes it out of this very harrowing gunfight and she thinks she's good to go, and then she gets kidnapped and stuck in a van. It's like, of course, that's just how life goes.
To fight your way like balls to the wall, death and donuts, you're fighting all out, and then you win, and 3 minutes later you get kidnapped off the street.
Yeah.
Seems like a son of a bitch.
Yep. It's just life.
And when she gets kidnapped off the street, we find out that there's more going on than we ever would have thought possible. Tendrils within tendrils, layers within layers. And we meet, you're welcome to cut this topper, but I'm sorry to the author, but an IDF soldier and a South African man are not inspiring a lot of, hey, these are my protagonists to me. I understand I'm an American and we just apparently just murder people willy-nilly, but like as I'm reading this, I'm like, should I be rooting for these? Like, this guy is like white South African. She's an IDF and apparently she loves combat and death. And this is kind of like, okay, especially with like the sort of current political climate. Maybe this would have read completely different in 2011.
Oh, yes.
Oh, for
it
sure.
was like,
For sure.
you know, the rampaging around, blasting people. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. There are so many facets of this book where you think it's making like an ideological point, or it's making like it's taking a stance for or against something. But having gone through it a second time to write down all my notes, because I didn't take many notes when I was reading, I had to go through it twice to take care of that. I'm realizing it's taking like no stance at all. Later on, when they have a fight in the desert with extremists, they're just extremists. They're not any kind of extremists. They are dark men with guns who want to spread their ideology. We don't learn what the ideology is. They're just extremists doing extreme
It's
things.
only book one. It's only
Extreme.
book one.
Right, absolutely. It's good to point out, though. This is something that I had for my first review 2 years ago when I first reviewed this book, that the difference between, because we're going to learn about this in a couple minutes, that there is a shady organization that's off in the background doing negative shady things, and then there's a shady organization doing things in the foreground that are supposed to be positively shady things. And then there's just you're bad for this book. So I feel like she was definitely trying to set up a small scale bad and a large scale bad for later in the series, like you said, Nancy. Like, because we get embroiled in stuff all the time in adventure fiction, like James Rollins. Everything has to be a world-ending threat. There's like, you know, if we don't stop this thing, this virus is going to kill everybody and the world's going to end and all stuff. Morgan Sierra only wants one thing, and that is to get these stones to free her sister and her little niece that have been kidnapped so they can get the stone. That's it. Nothing else matters. And I really like that sort of narrow focus and the smaller stakes. While there is stuff hinted at that's going on in the background, it was kind of refreshing. Because either it's usually a guy in a cabin with one knife and a homemade bow and arrow, or the entire world is going to end if we don't, you know, solve the problem.
Yes, this is a high-tension middle ground for that.
And right now, there's 8 or 9 arcane books, so there was definitely some serial escalation happening. Sorry, Stevie, I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, for the record, Nancy, I literally, in my notes, too, has twins are separated Parent Trap style, so...
Oh, and not to time date this too much, but there is, in this book, a large portion of it takes place in the Middle East, and right now, there's problems in the Middle East, and they've gotten bad recently. So I'm not going to date this show because that's evergreen. Here we are.
Unfortunately, yes.
There's problems in the Middle East and they've gotten bad recently. Send that into the future. See if it keeps.
Well, we just read Pacific Vortex, and there they were going to sell nukes to an Arab oil state in the Middle East because there's trouble in the Middle East. There's always trouble in the Middle East.
Yes.
Always trouble.
The first episode of SNL.
There's one thing that you can rely on.
First episode of SNL, the news guy. Hi, welcome to SNL. There's trouble in the Middle East.
And that's the news on this, the 81st day of the freedom for the hostages from Iran. Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
It's almost like you shouldn't kick the door down and just say, hey, this is a new thing now. After thousands of years of people being fine. Everybody's fine. And then you just kick the door down and say, hey, this is now a thing that we decided because it fits in with our insane religious ideology that has to build for the end of the world. So you guys can't live here anymore.
I'm telling you,
And we gave you all new borders.
the British,
Have fun with that.
0.8% of the world's population, 80% of the world's problems. You know, some guy in England is drawing a map. You know, Israel should be here. I've never been there, but hey, let's put a border down this way.
Sure.
Pakistan, fuck you.
Right. Well, also, I think it's like, what's the word? Analogous? Is that the right word? Where it's just like, over here in the Western world, you know, we can say, oh, there's problems way over there in an area that we don't understand. And it's very like, just...
We've never touched it. And every time we try to help it, it gets worse. Right. And the white supremacy. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Right. So it's like, oh, way over there, they have these problems. We don't have any problems over here. Aren't we lucky?
Meanwhile, the British drew the maps and said, here you go. We fixed it for you.
Like, oh, goody, thanks.
And the people on the ground are like, hey, the rest of my family lives in a different country now. And Britain's like, tough.
Yeah. Meh. That'll be fine. That'll be fine.
But I have this wonderful fascinator that looks like a toilet seat.
I'm going to make a recommendation for some reading for our listeners. The short story, Leaving Omelas. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So this is when we meet Jake Timber, and he is a agent of the secret but not secret but kind of secret, but we don't know how public they are, organization called Arcane.
A lot of people seem to know who Arcane is throughout this book.
Yeah. I think there is a public face of Arcane, but there's also a clandestine face. They can't. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are they going to sell diamonds from King Solomon's vines?
Yes.
What other religious items are there? The Grail.
99 cents each. Just some
Exclusive merch.
You have to choose wisely, though. Like there's a bunch of weird cups.
Reliquary eBay.
And he is a secret agent for a secret organization.
very eloquent, very good.
It dates back to the 1800s. It's for investigating paranormal things specifically tied to religion, which I think is very interesting because, like, I love the idea of the weird, the capital W weird in adventure stories. Because you'll have adventure stories like, we can specifically cite Raiders. Like Raiders, the Indiana Jones trilogy. Well, quintupology now.
There's only 3.
Those ones don't count.
We don't talk about the last ones.
There's only 3.
Dial of Destiny is actually
Won't
pretty
ever
darn-
see it.
In Indy, like specifically, there is divine magic that happens. Those things are related specifically to God. And like, I kind of like the idea of, is there magic in the world? Is there not magic in the world? What is the magic related to? And like, if we find out later in these Arcane books that like, there's no such thing as magic and it's all just weird radiation, or it's all just like some strange
Swamp gas?
some strange scientific mumbo jumbo. Swamp gas, radiation, you know, whatever, something emitting. Stop fracking because you'll kill entire towns, but they all think they've seen Jesus right before they die, right? Stuff like that.
Well, if I saw my water on fire, I'd be like, oh, there's a god. Water's on fire. That couldn't happen.
Right.
If you're
Northern Lights.
caveman, you go outside during a thunderstorm, you're like, oh, Northern Lights, a comet. You'd be like, God's angry. God, you would internalize that because humans are all about themselves. And you're like, oh, God's pissed at me or God's happy with me.
Well, and that's just a part of us trying to understand our world around us, right? Like,
Yeah, that's how it starts with the little...
Exactly.
Until we developed math, and then everything should have been fine once people figured out that you can use math to understand what's going on in the universe. Instead, we just have a bunch of lunatics that think that the Google Chrome logo is a 666.
so anyway,
They took away the okay symbol. You can't be like, oh no, back up, you're okay. No, that's white supremacist. They took the Google symbol now?
no.
You can't even like read stuff about Vikings anymore. Like, oh, this is very interesting to me. Interesting period
They
of
ruined Vikings.
history. No, now it's a white supremacist thing, and everybody tries to just be a Viking, whatever silliness. But
So I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was a show or a couple movies or something back in like the early 2000s called The Librarians.
Yes, I've seen every episode.
And this description of Arcane, like being down in the thing,
Is the librarians, exactly.
it had very much Librarians vibe, which I loved. I loved it.
and
Loved
Warehouse
the show.
13 vibes as well.
Yeah.
And if anybody remembers Warehouse 13,
Warehouse 13 and Warehouse 23. and Magnus Archives, and all sorts of good stuff.
The 7 of 9 is in the library.
Yes.
Yes.
She's like the elder, wise character.
At 45.
As Clive would say, still a few good years left on her.
Jesus Christ.
Handsome woman. Meanwhile, she's got boobs that can crack walnuts. I mean, they are just firm and just beautiful.
Thanks, Clive.
That's enhancement from the Borg.
I'm getting too Clive-brained. Really?
Yeah, dude.
Super Clive pilled.
Oh, God, no. Then you just have tequila bottles everywhere.
Wait, I eat nothing but cheese and drink whiskey. Like a man.
Yeah. Weird. Steaks, whiskey.
Because you're manly.
Cold 1911.
His only beverage that he drinks is besides whiskey, buttermilk.
Oh, he changes up later. Like later, it's very specific Don Juan silver label tequila. Like I think that happened like after.
Oh, he got a brand.
Yeah, I think it happened after Sahara, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
all the celebrities are doing that now.
Anyway,
let's get back to chapter.
Sorry. Yes, so I'll do chapter 3 because
I was going to say we're on the first part of chapter 2 and we're 40 minutes into this record.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to die.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you like talking to
your wife and family will beat you to death.
Yeah. It's okay.
That's
These
how you'll
chapters
die.
get a lot faster. We just have to lay out so much world building in the first couple chapters, and then it's just like bang, bang, bang.
I will say, like, I don't have a ton of notes. I kind of did like 3 like bang bang bullet points for each chapter because I knew there was a lot of us and a lot of to get through. So I don't have enough to kind of like go through a full chapter on my own. So I'll just kind of
not a problem.
So is it in chapter 3 that we learned that she cheated on her sister's husband, or is that later?
Yes.
Okay.
But they just made out, right? It wasn't like they actually did
one
it.
kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she's like racked with guilt. Oh, but we forgot the part where she's constantly thinking of her sister, and she's like, "Oh, I'm trying to repair this relationship with my sister, and like we have not been together in the same place for a long time." But she constantly keeps mentioning things they do together, like they've been hanging out a lot.
Yeah.
And
she's been speedrunning the bonding.
Yeah, we cut to not Faye because that's her sister's name. Morgan's sister's name is Faye, and we cut not to her, but to her husband talking about her. Like Faye is the most nothing character I've ever read in a book. She's constantly off screen. She doesn't actually do anything except be tough face for her daughter. And we learned that this guy, David, who everybody in the very beginning of the book seems to be on David's jock for some reason. I do not know why.
Well, because in
everyone's like, oh, David.
Well, in a crime, you always blame the husband first. That's the first person you talk to.
Sure. We just learned that he's a drunk.
In this section is also where I realized that the scene setting is very strong in this. The action is not bad. It's really hard to get a sense of the geography with the action when it happens, but that's fine. And the dialogue is the most lifeless and perfunctory dialogue ever. So this man has just had his house busted into by Thanatos, these evil mercenary horse people, and he's on the couch wrapped in a blanket like he's severely traumatized, and the dialogue just basically, hey, your wife got kidnapped. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm gonna go upstairs. Have a nice, like, there's no exclamation marks. Everybody's just like, hi, I'm a new character. Here's the plot. Leaving now. And there's no emotion.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot.
We specifically needed the fact that he urinated on himself for no reason.
At no point in this book does anybody yell, even when, later on, Morgan pulls a gun, shoots off a guy's kneecaps, and then points it in Jake's face and tells him to fuck off. No one's yelling. It's just like, it's so conversational.
Well, it's the jet lag.
Maybe it's conversational the way you think you're conversational in a panic situation. Like, put that down. I said, put it the fuck down. And meanwhile, in your head, you think, I calmly asked you to please put that on the table.
Per my last email.
Yes.
I was just thinking it's probably the jet lag because they're constantly going from time zone to time zone in this entire book.
Not yet, but she's gonna get there,
right?
I'd be wearing a suit to eat. Wearing a suit, I would be wearing a helmet to eat soup. Definitely.
Wearing a soup to eat helmet.
Yes, exactly.
To your point, Topper, I felt like there was very lifeless. Like, I didn't feel a lot of emotion towards these characters. The only one I really cared about was Gemma, because she's a child, and she's, this is a dangerous situation for her. But yeah, I did not feel any kind of connection towards these characters, or had they had any kind of relationship towards each other. With the dialogue was very flat. It was very meh, like very one note.
So in modern writing theory, using exclamation marks and dialogue enhancers is really frowned upon. So like, he spat, she screamed, he yelled. No, like, it's just he said, she said, and if there's emotion, it should come through in the quality of your writing. And I'm not sure that's working here working here very well.
You need exclamation points, and here's why. Here's why. I'm texting to you, Stevie, about our coworker, Donna. Donna had a baby. Donna had a baby. No exclamation point. Oh my God, what happened? Right. Is the baby okay? Is the baby dead? Exclamation point. Donna had the baby. Exclamation point. Oh, Donna had the baby.
Yes. Or Donna, had the baby. Donna had the baby.
Or I can go full East Coast Donner.
So we learn in little snippets as we go that Jake, what's the fucking guy's name?
Jake Timber.
American.
Jake, oh God. Jake Timber. A very Afrikaner's name too, by the way. How does he have a South African accent? And his last name is a Dutch. If you don't, he should have been like Jake Van Vorgentine or something like that. But he explains the gimmick.
Jake Van Wood.
Yeah, Van Wood, something like that. And it took a second. Oh my God. Okay. He explains the gimmick really fast. 12 stones, 12 apostles. A fundamentalist group or a shady group is trying to steal the stones so they can use divine power to inspire a fundamentalist Christian uprising and start a religious war. And that's it. That's our main thing, is that's what we learn, and that's where we're going.
I did not trust this guy right out of the gate. Like, I was like, he's shady.
It didn't help that everybody kept telling you they were shady. Every other pair, don't trust those guys. Don't trust those guys. Oh, I am a completely unrelated priest that lives in a completely different city, but don't trust those guys.
Also, one thing I just realized now is Faye and Gemma weren't kidnapped by Thanatos, because there's 3 parties in play. There's Arcane, there's Thanatos, and then there's the American, Joe Everett, who I guess he kidnapped Faye and Gemma, and is just relying on Morgan to get the stones, completely heedless of the fact that she's up against 2 world-spanning mercenary groups. Right, he's just like, that's Morgan, she'll handle it. I'm gonna be over here staring in mirrors and thinking wistfully of my twin brother, because he also has a twin brother. There's a lot of twins happening.
And being cartoonishly evil. Like, not even he's just a bad guy who just wants his brother to be healed and he'll do anything. No, he's cartoonishly evil and we're a leader.
Oh, I can give you a quick rundown now if you'd like.
Oh, sure.
Joseph Everett has a twin who he's trying to help heal. He was raised horribly by his single mother. His father died when he was 5, making him the stone bequeatheth. His twin sister Michael, his twin brother Michael, has been hospitalized since the age of 15 when he attempted to cut his penis off, and he's nonverbal after years, and he became that way after years of horrible abuse by the mother that Joseph Everett casually admits to having strangled when he was 15.
Yeah, you think your childhood trauma is bad. Get a load of these guys.
Fine, he wins.
And we ask ourselves, is child abuse in 2011 maybe, but if this book was written today, would that be part of his main motivation or the thing that's supposed to humanize him? You know what I mean? Now we have kind of a different, it's kind of weird to say only about 12 years ago, but there's more dialogue about how trauma affects people, and it might just not be the same thing if it was written today.
Yes, he'd be a completely different person, because as a person we would have handled him differently.
Absolutely.
There would have been care workers and people in the hospital, social workers and stuff, to suss out the child abuse, you would hope.
100%.
This book had no time for that, though.
No time. That's just beat the kids. Beat them beat him half to death.
Here's a backstory. You're evil. Go.
He killed his mom.
Oh, and yes, then we go back to Faye and Gemma are being held on an airfield way out in the middle of nowhere. And then we cut to chapter 5, and we learn that arcane is a... What is it called?
An acronym?
Oh, I thought it was called something else. Yes, an acronym for arcane religious knowledge and numinous experience. Acronyms usually don't get an and. You have to have a word.
Also, I like how arcane has arcane in it. It's like Homer Simpson in the BDDQ.
The extra B is for BYOBB. What's that extra B for?
That's a typo.
I like there's a phrase in chapter 4, a maelstrom of misery. I was like, I need to use that phrase in the future. I was like, I like that phrase. It was a maelstrom of misery. It's hard to even say.
I was a fan of theirs in the 90s.
Yeah. That's funny.
But after I learned the acronym, I was like, this is dorktopoulos right here. Arcane is in the acronym. I was like, okay, I wrote down, this is the Batman of Ghostbusters.
I said they're essentially the Ministry of Magic in Harry Potter.
Yeah, they are the librarians.
Yes.
And we meet Martin, aka Spooky Martin Klein. He's the chief archivist for Arcane. He hates things touching him. We meet him in chapter 5.
He is non-specifically autistic, so he's not good at social cues, but also he's a super genius at everything, just like me.
Well, we always have to... Aw.
We're podcasting. It's all of us.
Right?
Good point.
We always have to have the hacker, right? With the room full of screens. Like, that's just imperative.
Yes. Speaking of room full of screens, they have an interactive voice command computer. So our heroine can just go, while Martin is fiddling with his spits, she can go ask the computer some arcane knowledge about biblical things. And it's like a good Janet for Bibles.
I was going to ask you guys, because I know you have this count on your podcast. Does the virtual librarian count as a sexy secretary?
In spirit, yes.
Wasn't nearly sexualized enough to sort of reach that level, I think.
She had one button undone. I think that was the most lurid thing in the entire book. But they have a full-on VR library with a full-on VR
interface.
Yeah, it was so. I thought it was kind of weird. You meant the hologram librarian lady. Why would a lady person put a sexy librarian in her book? Don't you think that's kind of a thing that maybe there was one for them, one for me type of deal? But I felt like that's kind of a dude thing to be like, yeah, she's got that chain that goes from her glasses down to her neck. And she takes her glasses off and shakes her hair out, and it's absolutely gorgeous. You know what I mean? That just seemed like a dude.
Some things are just expectations after a while.
That might have been one of her editor's notes. Please just put one sexy lady in this. We need guys to read your book. Come on.
Have you seen...
Just like all women in media are not over the age of 50, all librarians that are female must be sexy. It's just a mandate across all media.
The funny thing is and I don't want to generalize here, but have you ever seen an actual librarian? Not that sexy.
It depends on what you're after.
I was going to say, I know one, and she might even listen to this show. So.
Oh no! Okay, well, that just totally did that.
Robert, please expand on this.
She's not talking about you. It's fine.
No,
wow.
I want them to be sexy. You totally cut that out. Oh my gosh!
This is my favorite part of the episode. Time to put Topper on the spot. Topper, please elaborate.
No, I'm good.
Now I feel bad.
Okay, moving on. We learn Jake's family's dead from Methods. Methods tore apart his family Mad Max style for no reason.
Apparently. That's certainly what it seemed like. It was brutally violent for almost no reason. You can have a dead family, this is something we run across. Everybody's an orphan. I think we even talked about it on the Uncharted episode together. So it has to be an adventure protagonist thing. Somebody does not have parents. You're not going home to your mom and dad's house saying, oh, hey, we went to go find the 12 stones of Pentecost and it was a really great adventure. No, they're dead. And they were torn apart by a Death Wish 3 gang.
That just hacked them to pieces. And
Yeah. Morgan's dad died by suicide bomber in Israel, and I forget how Morgan's mom died.
breast cancer. And that takes us to chapter 6, and we meet Father Ben Costanza.
Related to George?
Conestoza. It's not Costanza, because that would be a very different type of monk.
I was raised to say, God bless you. Shut up.
I wrote down Costanza. Is it not Costanza?
Costanza. There's no A, except for the end. It's not CA,
okay.
it's COSTONZA.
My bad.
But it's been Thanos and Costanza the entire time I was reading the book.
Yeah, I totally read that as Thanos. Like, I even have it written down as Thanos did this, Thanos did that.
My mental image for Jake Timber is also completely ruined by the fact that there is a local MMA fighter named Timber Bigfoot. That is his real legal name.
That's funny.
Jesus Lord.
Because First Nations people have the coolest names.
How is Timber not a more common first name?
Sure.
Timber?
Tim, where? Timothy, Timbercy.
Sorry, that was a sidetrack to nowhere. Sorry.
We get a little vignette of this priest who works at Blackfriars, which somebody probably knows way more about this stuff than I do. That I don't know anything about anything to do with like Catholic stuff. So that's apparently like monastery in Oxford or something. I have written down he's her Christian lore St. Julian Perlmutter. Like
Yeah,
this is very. You know what she's reading when she's doing something. Saying there's fingerprints all over this book of everything's derivative, right? It doesn't make her derivative. It just makes like some things work and some things are cool, and we just keep them.
I think the modern equivalent would be Pawn Stars, where the guy who owns a pawn shop just goes, I got a friend who knows everything about blank, and they call somebody in.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Completely
So this is
not
Morgan
made up.
having, like, I have a friend who knows all about Christianity. I'm going to call him in.
A guy came in with a saddle, big money. So I called him my big buddy Mark.
My name is Mark. I'm an expert in Western Illyria.
All I have for this is they start talking about the stones. Ben knows what arcane is, and then immediately a grenade just arrives at the window.
And they run from the bads, and the bads shoot up the place.
How incompetent is Thanatos? Because a grenade flies through the window, and there's immediately gunfire downstairs. Just walk up to the office and wait outside the door, you idiots.
Well, no, throw the grenade into the office, count to whatever, then go. After boom, then go.
Yeah.
Sure. Just you can break it down to wait till after boom.
But still wait outside, because they threw the grenade, they're down in the quad, there's gunfire for some reason, who the fuck are they shooting at? And there's nobody upstairs to see if, hey, did they leave the office? Which direction did they go? Did we get them? No. Thanatos is the worst mercenary group in the world.
And we've learned today that Topper has been practicing to be a mercenary and is adjusting his schedule accordingly.
It's my retirement plan.
What have you been doing with your life?
Professional killer.
Oh, good for you. It's a growth industry.
They all get a sick-ass tattoo, though.
That's important to have.
Oh, and they leave a stencil behind. They leave after the office has been grenaded, when they return, there is a pale horse's head drawn on the wall. And in my notes I wrote, did they bring a stencil? Who has time for this as a bad guy?
Yeah.
You gonna go back and do arts and crafts?
You have a special tag person that his one job.
Somebody, just one person on your task.
15-year-old they bring along?
Yeah. You make the stencil. You go in, you stencil real hard, and then you get out. I think the real tragedy here is the destroyed books. As an avid reader and a lover of books, anytime you get any situation where they destroy the books, my heart just melts.
Oh, especially because you think Oxford, a lot of these are going to be first prints or originals.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And written copies of arcane.
Hundreds of years old.
So it is really devastating. But they have time for arts and crafts. So.
And I don't know what chapter you guys are on, but in the next chapter, after they ran away from the Thanatos goons, mine cut to Jake goes to see his boss at Arcane.
Yeah, that's chapter 7 for me.
Yes, okay. Elias.
Same.
And he was just a very generic guy too, but he has secrets. Everybody has secrets. Their secrets are then secrets, and everybody's kind of like shadish. And he gives a little Thanatos background. He just said that they're bad guys from World War II. That used Nazi research to find the religious artifacts because there was already a branch of them. I believe it was SS, like the Annenherba was the actual name of the organization that would hunt down these religious relics for power, because apparently somebody thought that if they had the staff of Longinus, they'd be able to like take over France faster or something.
That was something else I had written down, is we get the info dump and Elias says that they're a splinter group focused on artifacts based on Nazi research, but it doesn't say what they splintered from. So
right. Splintered from Nazis. It's a Nazi splinter group.
Yeah, but it didn't say that. It was a splinter group who like based their stuff on Nazi research. So I like to think that they splintered off Arcane.
Oh, I just inferred splintered off of Nazis, but okay.
Like I said, this book is very non-specific for so many important plot points. I could just make up my own shit.
And that could be a thing later in the series that like we do learn. It's supposed to be super shocking. Like, oh, these guys were all homies, and now they're the bad. As I did say earlier, like there's one shady background organization, another shady background organization. One is supposed to be the good guys, and one's supposed to be the bad guys, and there's no real distinction.
Well, I do like that in the end, we don't really know if Arcane is good or bad.
Sure.
I do, because in life, you really do not have that certainty of whoever you're working for, whoever you're conjugating with on whatever level. You don't know if they're good or bad.
Right.
And if they are a government organization, they're not a moral organization. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're good people. They are just doing their job. So it's they're compartmentalized. They're just a group of people getting a paycheck. Mm-hmm.
I think life would be a lot easier if we had people actually twisting mustaches and be like, oh, you're the bad guy.
Right.
You know, when I was a kid, that just meant pizzeria man.
So they talk a little bit, and we get redundant info about Everett. And this is my first occasion in my notes where I have the word wait written in very large letters. If the stones are not earth, they made the stone they rolled over Jesus' tomb out of a meteorite, but then somehow they have a weird radiation resonance with a comet, which comets are commonly known as made of ice, like deep space chunks of ice. So, like, what is the relation? Like, was there a meteor that landed?
You can have radioactive water, and as the ice is melting, that can get into the atmosphere.
I think all of this is leading up to Space Jesus is an alien.
Solved it.
And it's a secret Scientology book?
It's in the name, Space Jesus.
It's just science, people.
And Jake and Morgan team up and head to a cathedral in Spain.
Yeah, we have lots of making plans and looking at maps, which is I'm a fan of. And we learn that
and Jake is bankrolling this.
Yeah.
He's got the black card. He's putting it down because there's airfare here.
Oh, for sure.
They did mention that after the opening scene gunfight, which destroyed Morgan's office, Jake's like, we'll have a crew take care of that and get rid of the bodies. It's fine. And nobody ever brings it up again.
Well, I noticed throughout the book they have...
Oh my God, you're right. What if he didn't? What if just back in her office is a bunch of dead people and Oxford's like, she's missing. We have a professor missing.
Well, I feel like that's a thing throughout the books. Like throughout the book, there's always a cleanup crew. Oh, the cleanup crew will get it. Who is this?
We don't have time to deal with fallout or consequences. We have to get to the next chapter. Fucking no.
Make it run.
Our crime scene cleanup that we have on retainer.
And my note for the next chapter Chapter 7 ends with, we have to go to Spain, there's a stone there. Chapter 8 begins with, they're in Spain, they found the stone. Like,
yep.
Yeah.
We're in a hurry.
And we learned scallops, a pagan sign of fertility.
Sure.
Just throwing that in, that was thrown in the chapter, and I'm throwing it out here now. Scallops, tasty, fertility, or reverse.
Note, do not eat scallops. No, I'm just kidding.
There's a certain amount of, like, information sort of boasting in this book, if that makes sense. Like, you have this whole thing, like, what Clive does is he puts all that actual history in there, like his thing about, like, very detailed descriptions of very real
engines,
engines, vessels, things like that. That's a thing that kind of carries over through the whole genre, and everybody always has to throw the tidbits. I feel like this book, there's a couple places just like that where, like, oh, I have an interesting factoid and I have to, wedge it in here to make sure people know that I'm legit.
Yes, but in a very different way, because she just throws it out there. Hey, I have this piece of knowledge. Throwing it down. Where Clive Cussler would be like, the rod in the suspension was hard, rock hard, and it was spinning in this throbbing cylinder. And you're like, okay, calm it down, Clive. We got it. So this author can describe something without innuendo.
That's not what I mean. Sign them out.
And that's nice.
Yeah, for me, it read more like here's the short Wikipedia article on this cathedral.
Yeah.
Oh, and much like Uncharted, Jake has to wrap a rope around his leg and be hoisted into the air like today's catch in the cathedral to create a diversion.
All right, and this also happens a lot. They're being followed backwards by Thanatos, because every time they go anywhere to find a stone, Thanatos is already there waiting for them. And as soon as they're about to find the stone, Thanatos reveals themselves by, like, opening fire on no one in particular and giving them a chance to escape every time.
You almost think you're leading them there. As soon as you tell your plane where to go, maybe, your private plane pilot is on the take. Suss him out, because the bad guys are already waiting for you there every time you go someplace.
Right.
Which further establishes Topper's theory of that they probably are a weird splinter branch of Arcane. They still have people that are loyal to them inside.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
They'll have to read 8 more books to find out if I'm right. No.
Right, and it makes you think, like, okay, are these guys really working together, or, who's helping who? You know what I mean?
Well, not the priest that gets stabbed in chapter 9. He just eats it.
Poor guy.
They shank his ass. Yeah. It's wild.
Morgan finds a priest in the basement. He's also a keeper. They talk back and forth, and he immediately gets stabbed.
Immediately. Everybody this woman runs into is just being murdered.
Yes, but then she bricks the bad guy. She does hit the bad guy with the Bible, and there's the holy door of pardon, which she has to shoot open to get out.
Which I think is really funny that these very secret stones, everybody knows about them. They're like, hey, do you know about this? I got this stone. Oh, me too. I know. Like...
You have one too? That's awesome. I can trust you with my life.
Stab.
And then they're done. Because we didn't cover the part where we're on, I don't know if it's going to be different for you because your chapters are different, but I am on page 91 at this point. The chase, the actual quest that we're on, because we learned we have 5 stones accounted for, and we need 12. So we have to find the other, and Everett has one, so that's 6. So they have to find 6 separate stones. And this didn't happen until page 91 on my book. Like, there's scenes of her, Hammond and Holland have decided if she wants to join these guys or she doesn't want to join these guys. We're talking to this person, talking to that person. It's just like, say, hey, we need to find these stones, let's go. I know you all think it's so fast-paced, but, like, I'm sitting here thinking, this is dragging a little bit. And then later, when we have to go to actually every different 6 places to find these stones, it's like, all right, we did this 5 times already. Mm-hmm. Let's just go.
In one sense, I do appreciate how fast things go, because at the end of the fetch quest in Iran, the fetch quest in the Sudan, the fetch quest in Israel, it's basically 3 paragraphs from them finding the stone. Bang, bang, bang. They're back on the airplane heading somewhere else.
Yes, it is shotgunning explanations.
I would be interested to actually sit down. I'm not going to do this because I'm not that depraved. But I'd be interested to know if she does the 1,500 word rule. The guy that wrote Doc Savage, gosh, I can't remember his name right now. Kenneth Robeson is a pen name, but that's, what was on the books. He had a very specific rule on how to write the very fast-paced pulp novels, that every 1,500 words, something needs to put your character in danger or change your character's position in relation to the danger. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to go through and count that, but I don't have time for all that shit. And they have to go now to...
Is this the chapter that Jake starts to be unexpectedly weirdly attracted to her for no reason?
Yep, that's what I have at the end of chapter 9, is they meet up, they fly out of Spain, and they bond a little bit.
It was, I don't know, this was like, I don't know, I did not like this.
And it didn't feel earned, it didn't feel like it actually meant anything.
He was like, oh, a woman.
Stuff later. But like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I am protagonist man, you are protagonist woman. We must be lovers.
Yes.
Because that is what the universe demands. Which I hate, by the way.
Because they both have to be single, unattached people. Like you said, the orphan trope. They can't be attached to any other human being on Earth.
Because they're so prudy.
It had to be two single people on the make to get together for their shadowy doings.
So now they have to go to St. James Cathedral or find the body of St. James. I forget where they had to go. But we get a little mini lore dump. We find that the stone has to be with the body.
Is this when they're in Iran?
I think it's in Iran.
Well,
I don't...
They fly off to Iran at the end of chapter 9. Chapter 10, they kill a homeless man.
Mm-hmm.
Yes!
I was going to say, chapter 10, we're back with Joe Everett.
I was like, oh, Jose, not Jose.
We meet a homeless drifter, and Joe Everett recharges the batteries in his Apostle Stone by burning the drifter alive.
And then he rushes the warm stone to his brother's hospital bed. Still fresh hobo.
Because he's trying to heal him, and he thinks human sacrifice will heal his brother with this God Power Stone. And he's a completely cartoonish villain. Like, you don't have to kill a homeless man all like that. Like, just let the lady, take somebody's sister and niece hostage. Sure, that's fine. Have mercenaries. That's okay. Have your own weird compound in the desert. Sure. You're gonna kidnap, homeless people and just murder them and just, have human sacrifices? Just a different level of, you have to be a cartoonish villain.
Well, it's a commitment.
Or at the very least, start with the human sacrifices, because he's had this stone for his entire life. His brother has been hospitalized for most of his life. They're both in their 40s, and Joe's a billionaire now, or some shit. And at no point until now, after you've already started Morgan on this quest, have you tried burning a drifter alive? Start with the drifter, then get into world-spanning mercenary shootouts.
That's the way Topper starts everything. You gotta change a tire. You gotta fix your laundry machine. You gotta move a fridge. Start by burning a drifter.
Yeah.
There's an odd amount of urns in Topper's house that no one ever seems to.
You are the most deadpan motherfucker out there, Zach. I love you.
I try my best. It doesn't help communicating with people because I don't actively try to be dry, but it's just my delivery, and sometimes people don't understand what I'm saying. Also, I don't know how to actually properly interact with human beings, so that helps a little bit.
I have to tell people I have a tone problem, or else they think I'm angry at them all the time.
Sure.
Like me. I've had to edit out so many times telling Nancy that something I just said was a joke. And she's like, no, I know it was a joke. I'm like, okay, but neither of us reacted. I don't know what's going on here. Are you mad at me?
We're podcasters. We always think somebody's mad at us. And the other person's yelling at us.
Right?
Oh my gosh, yes. That must be a requirement.
We're so good at this. Anyway, now we're in Iran, or Iran, which will, I'm sure, be completely sensitive on all fronts.
This is where they're going to get the stone from St. James' body? Am I wrong?
I think St. James was the last one. I didn't write down which apostle this one was.
This is in a window. This is in a stained glass window.
Oh, yeah. I got it. I'm way behind you guys, so my chapters are wrong.
It's the Church of St. Mary, the second oldest church in the world, and the seat of the Archbishop of the Armenian Church. And Thanatos is already there.
Gotcha.
So, of course, we immediately destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, to the ground.
Oh, yeah. Ancient...
I have a note that says, they're going to desecrate our treasures all like that? Because, they talk about how this church had been there for 1,000 years. They're just fucking shooting guns and throwing grenades and all kinds of stuff.
Yep. The stone is part of a fresco. They pry it out and then jump out of a window. And they go their separate ways, because nobody would follow Morgan. Nobody would follow Morgan because she's wearing a burqa. But Jake runs away, hides in a barbershop, steals a razor, slashes a guy's throat, double taps the other dude, and now covered in blood, just walks back to his airplane and leaves Iran.
Well,
he's probably very distinctly European looking too.
When you're covered in blood and a white guy in Iran, well, actually, Iran's Persian, so no offense, it's fine.
I was gonna say there's layers to this, but then we also get the sentence. Fortunately, Arcane had
there was layers to that for sure.
Fortunately, Arcane had connections to make all this go away.
Yep, that cleanup group they have on retainer.
How do you get on this cleanup group? It sounds like the hours are not steady, but the pay has got to be fantastic because you have to keep your mouth shut. and you just have to. And nobody ever cleans
those crime scene cleanup guys. They make bank. They make a ton of money.
They should for the trauma.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
So let's have the story about the cleanup crew who has to go around behind these crazy adventure protagonists, just racking up body counts.
Yes.
Leaving, of course. And there's one very harried man.
You're like, damn it! You had to use a grenade. I'll never get this out.
He just has to constantly be explaining to people, oh, it's fine. Religious artifacts, there's going to be a war, there's all this stuff. And it's just this very, very stressed out man who's constantly pulling the hair out of the front of his head and picking his fingernails because he's just so stressed out. But I want to read that book.
He's going to be taping artifacts together. Special glues.
He has a fanny pack full of all the specialty super glues with the super, like, the different tips. Like,
and a Dremel. Get in there.
He's got like fake relics. If he has to rebuild something, is like, well, the hand fell off that relic, so I got this hand from a pawn shop. I'm just gonna squeeze that on there.
Or he's really good with like the foam, expanding foam. He just cuts away until it's just perfect.
I feel that would be the perfect job for the Mythbusters now that they're retired.
There you go.
Are you guys going to read any of the ancillary Clive books, like any of the ghostwritten stuff, like the Oregon Files?
Later on?
Later?
Maybe, yeah.
Sure.
Once we finish the base 25, then there's like basically the 3 spin-offs.
Because there's a specific...
If we don't hate each other, we'll try those.
There's a specific department of the Oregon that is like a Hollywood special effects shop squirreled away somewhere in the Hall of the Oregon.
Excellent.
That, like, they can do any disguise, they can replicate any artifact. It's literally just like that. And like the Oregon's like a super ship.
Mission Impossible ship.
Plasma engines. Yeah, it's definitely Mission Impossible.
So that's what you can do with that art degree.
Sweet. I can't wait now.
I help a bunch of crazy murderers who are securing artifacts cover their shit up. I went to art school for 6 years here. That's great.
Hey, if you had to go to art school, you will take any job. And if it comes with dental,
there you go.
Absolutely.
You will shut up and clean that blood.
And that hazard pay?
But the ship you serve on's constantly getting shot at.
It happens.
You went to art school. What do you expect?
Yeah.
See the world, adventure.
My kids are going to art school, so I'll tell them to look out for jobs like this.
And that nobody's cleaned the stained glass window, because if I'm cleaning a window and it's got a bump, I'm nudging that bump. And then this is the oldest church in Christendom, and then it hasn't been a cleanup, and like, there's a bump right here.
Right, because it's in the painting, right? Like, it's very conspicuous.
Yes, it's a bump in the painting.
For a 1,000-year-old church, nobody's ever noticed this.
Right. Yeah, they find these stones very quickly.
Like he has a tumor. They had cancer.
Get the scraper. There's a bit over here that's sticking out. No, that never happened.
And then we cut to Everett. And he is a very, very mentally ill man. And he's like pontificating for pages on his addiction to fire and like watching things burn. This is where I was like, okay, he's a little bit cartoonish, but it was still enjoyable to read because like I thought some of this stuff was like nice prose, at least to read, if not for a character to do. And this is my favorite part of the book. I feel like the author figured out a way to do a cartoonish villain monologue, but justify it in the actual text. So he has Faye tied up, who is Morgan's sister. We haven't talked about her that much because she's off screen 90% of the book. And he throws... He has one of his henchmen, which we talked about this like earlier this week. How much do you get paid as a henchman to constantly be under the threat of death? The protagonists are going to kill you. The bad guy is going to kill you. Like, he just kicks one of his men into the super hot kiln, which was, again, this is more biblical symbolism. That's like, you know what I'm
Shadrach,
talking
Meshach, and Abednego.
Yeah. And they have video, and he makes poor Faye watch this man burn alive through the window of this kiln, and he videotapes it all, and has this terrific villain monologue. And they just send it in a file. I don't know if they sent it in videotape or a DVD. They sent it in a DVD because it's 2011. Now they just send you a file. But they send it to the Arcane team. And I thought it was a very interesting way because, like, you could have gone a different direction with that. You could have had him standing on top of his complex at the end of the book, just, like, railing off this villain monologue. But, like, she was actually able to have it in there without it being super silly. It was still a little silly, but it wasn't like...
There's still a human-sized kiln.
Yeah. Hey, you gotta be able to put the shit on the shelves, right?
Which
I was going to say,
it burns everything.
if you have a kiln, you are a psychopath.
my kid's school has a human-sized kiln.
That's scary.
You definitely are seeing a therapist regularly for sure. If you're making
If
pottery
you
and
own a
putting it in
kiln, you should be seeing a therapist regularly.
Right, yeah, this is
So these are all stories we have to write now. So we have to write a story about the cleanup crew for a group like this. Then we have to write a story from the point of view of the psychiatrist that a supervillain has on staff to deal with his mooks.
I like this a lot.
And they're all just like, I am so terrified of being thrown into a human-sized kiln at any given time. And he kicks the crap out of that guy, too. Like, he just pushes this apparently trained military person.
Hits him in the face with a brick, yeah.
Yeah, and then he just, like, gives him the waffle stomp. And, like, and the other guy does nothing to help him. Like, oh, that was my buddy. We went to, like, boot camp together.
He owes me money.
Well, you were in the Navy, right? It's top down. You take the orders. No? Nothing?
I was not in the Navy, in case you were talking to me.
Oh, I thought you were in the Navy.
No, I had a maritime profession.
Oh, okay.
Do what you want, because a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
For 10 years. And I blame Clive for that, because he made it sound so fucking cool.
Navy SEAL. You were a Navy SEAL.
No. I'm a pacifist. I don't mess around with that.
You're a Navy porpoise.
Now, there's a job. Just like doing the undulation swim everywhere you go.
Oh, there was a lady in the 70s who... never mind. There was a scientist lady. I'll drop you the link later. She got in trouble. Lost a grant.
That's a story I need to know.
Dolphin things.
Yeah.
She did dolphin things.
Oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
No, thank you.
She pulled a Troy McClure.
We know how dolphins are.
Yeah. She's court mandated to stay at least 200 feet away from any dolphin or porpoise.
She did that on porpoise? Oh.
Smells fishy.
And now,
oh, no.
Morgan, oh my God.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Now Morgan and Jake are going to St. Peter's Basilica. And I have never in my life actually wanted to visit the Vatican and see this so bad, because she describes the hell out of this cathedral. Mm-hmm. It's like beautiful. I know how St. Peter's Basilica is a gorgeous, cathedral or whatever, but like she works her ass off and she does some prime prose in this book. She really, really does some very, very good descriptive. This is the epitome of showing us and not telling us. A lesser writer would have just been like, nah, it's a cathedral, Sistine Chapel or something. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. The description of a rock star priest as the Pope was wild to me.
Yeah. Well, it's very evocative, right? Like, that's how people... I'm not Catholic. My wife is Catholic, but, like, she's not practicing. But, like, you see some... And we can see it from sort of our ex-evangelical background. Like, some people treat these pastors, and hell, if the Pope's the most powerful man in the world for several hundred years, like 1,000 years of our history, somebody's going to treat him like the ground he walks on is literally holy. And there's probably artifacts like toenail clippings of the Pope or something.
Sure.
Because apparently they just keep corpses behind glass. Like, that's a thing? I did not know that was a thing. Like, skulls and corpses behind,
you have to make sure it's sealed.
Glass.
You have to see the green, the yellow and blue make green. But once they're in there...
throw them out. They might be useful at some point. I'm like that with cords.
Yeah. Cords, corpses, skulls of saints, The
only problem I have with this is occasionally our heroine Morgan picks up a candlestick. I've worked in churches as unpaid slave labor as a child.
Yep, that's how they get the work done.
I took it out and creamed a mint, so we're even church. I drank all the priests creamed a mint. Those candlesticks you cannot pick up. I don't know what cheap-ass 99-cent store Vatican they're going to. She's not she's mindlessly going to clock somebody with a candlestick without, like, a forklift.
She's the raddest, baddest, worst you ever had as protagonist that's ever walked the face of the planet, and she doesn't feel anything except for the desire to get her sister back. And she is willing to murder absolutely anybody, and she's the smartest, and she's the fastest, she's the best with the guns, and, she can lift a fucking 85-pound candlestick, no problem.
You swirl it around her head like it's nothing.
Are they metal, or are they, like, wax?
The candles are wax, but if she's using You can't brain somebody with a candle. The candle just break.
And those old candlesticks are like, there's a lot of lead in those.
Okay.
They weigh a ton. They're never moved.
Okay.
And like we're talking about like the big shoot, and I think the one she grabbed was like one of the big ones too, right? Like,
that's like grabbing a pillar off of something in Athens. Like, oh, they're not using this at.
Maybe it was just adrenaline.
Well, there was a very specific line in here where she called the Pope is called Il Papa, and like the only thing I could think in my brain for like 5 solid minutes was, I love it when you call me Il Papa. I love it when you call me Il Papa. I was like, oh no, I just ruined the book for myself.
No.
I like how they don't find the stone, and so they eat a cannoli.
Did they?
You have to get your sugar back up.
I had that written down because they think like they go through all these. They think they have all the right clues and tips and tricks to find the stone in St. Peter's Basilica while they're using the Pope as a distraction. But right away, I figured that it couldn't be there because Thanatos wasn't there shooting up the place. And they're only where the stones are. So they rip the hourglass off of the statue of a skeleton, taking the hand with it. And they smash the hourglass and the stone's not there. So I had to write down, after smashing a priceless religious artifact in the Vatican with the Pope watching, they go for a coffee and a cannoli, and they figure out it must be in Venice.
Calmly.
I'm thinking, like, wouldn't the Swiss guard just shoot you on sight?
Oh God, I hope we're not giving them bullets. Do they have bullets?
They were distracted by the Pope.
Well, no, the Swiss guard have, like, they're an actual paramilitary organization.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the funny costumes and the spears are only set dressing. Like, those guys are like...
They have
they're
AKs.
like basically French Foreign Legion for the Vatican. That's the only thing I know about Catholicism, is that the Swiss guard will kill you. Like, they're scary.
I just know my brain works better when I have a snack, too. That's...
Yeah. Get your sugar up, have the cannoli.
Yep.
And if you're in if you're in Rome, you're going to get a for real cannoli. None of this fucking go to Walmart and get a package of 5 cannolis.
Oh, no. No. They're piping it, the cannoli cream, into the shell before you, upon request.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sorry, that collapsed.
So chapter 14 starts off with Joe Everett watching Faye and Gemma, and out of nowhere, he's horny for Faye. So sort of like
he wanted a family.
Jake and Morgan have this thing going on. If you have a man and a woman in the same chapter for long enough, they eventually have to fall in love.
So silly.
These people have never been in waiting rooms.
He's like extremely mentally ill though. Like, so like you could see him being like the super incel, which apparently he was the super incel, but he just became a billionaire. And like he just sees a lady, he's within 5 feet of a lady, he's like, she likes me. She smiled at me, she likes me, she wants to go out.
According to this author, like you get stuck in an elevator with some guy, you come out married.
Sure. Poof.
Oh, and then
that's how Mormons do it, right?
Yeah, and then we also meet Mario, the Italian Jake from Arcane in Venice.
And yeah, because they have to go to Venice, and we get Venice stuff describing that Venice is sinking. Everybody knows Venice is sinking. And then, oh, haven't we been trying to figure out a way to stop the ocean from sinking Venice? Yeah, but nobody actually really wants to do that. And, whatever, Venice stuff. Because Venice has always been sinking forever and ever. And it will probably be gone within the next 40 years.
Oh, probably.
We weren't using it.
But Mario has to go out and get a drone.
It's over there. It doesn't matter.
And I want to know where in Venice, between like the cannolis and the pizzerias and the t-shirt magnet depots, like where do you get a drone? That's the most high-tech thing I could think of.
Well,
next to Venice, a city that they get around by canal boats. I feel like you have to leave Venice to get the drone.
As we established in the Uncharted episode, there's 9 Papa John's in downtown Barcelona. I'm sure you can find
He's just popping over
a circuit city somewhere in Venice.
Target.
It's called Il Drono.
Some old,
very good.
An old dusty Radio Shack that's still open.
There you go. Have you seen Spider-Man Far From Home? Like the one where he fights Mysterio? Venice seems wild to me. Like there's parts in that movie where like they're just in their hotel and the hotel is just sinking and they just have to wear boots and everybody's like, man, it's fine. It's fine. So like
you get used to it.
The Italian stuff always captivates me because like you'll see pictures of like these like 1,000-year-old buildings and there is like a shop that sells 1970s giant robot toys. And it's just the most weird juxtaposition of like this high pop art and like medieval architecture just happening in the same place. sure. Just he's getting the drone. But he had it in his trunk. He had the drone in the trunk. He opens it, sees Mark and Tom, and says, "Hey," grabs the drone, closes the trunk, and they're still waiting to get on the plane. But this is when Morgan and Jake have their campfire stuff. They get to know each other a little bit better.
They have a snuggle bond.
Yeah, and on our podcast.
Yeah, and they sit in the dark. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
So on our podcast, we talk about this through line of campfire stuff through movies, and that's the time where our characters get a chance to learn about each other, get like a quick scene of bonding or backstory, and so we name that campfire stuff in our podcast.
And this is why they have to be unattached people, because if you were attached, you'd be like, I have to text my husband, I have to like call my boss, and let them know I'm not going to be there tomorrow.
But my husband's far away, and Jake's here now and manly.
Hey, buddy.
He's even named Jake.
Oh, Jake Timber, so he's got wood.
Oh no!
And now they're off to Amalfi, which they've got to smell fantastic at this point. They've been how many plane rides? And they've just been to Venice, where it's known for smelling horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
and they've never taken.
It's going to be in their clothes.
This is the third time that Marietti talks to Jake and says, "It's imperative you get all the stones before Pentecost, before Thanatos does, or it'll be the end of the world." And Jake's like, "Okay, I'll do it." You just keep telling him over and over what his job is for this book.
Nobody's going to offer to help. Bring solutions, not problems.
I just said it's very micromanagey.
Yeah.
Every 5 minutes, you got him, you got him, you got him. It's like, are you there yet with kids? This is when Morgan starts to get annoyed with the quest too. Like she's just, I just want to find my sister, and I'm sick of running around the world finding these damn stones.
Oh yeah, she Vespa Jack's a tourist, and then Jake feels left out, so he does the same thing.
And this was actually pretty cool because I was expecting a big chase scene, and I'm like, oh, how is she going to handle a chase? And like, there are some mechanics. I write a little bit, and if you're doing action, there are some mechanics of the chase scene you really have to worry about, like keeping track of things. And she just runs her motorcycle right into the guy. There's no chase. She just like hits him. And you're like, yeah, let's go. I kind of really like that change rather than having a protracted chase scene.
Yeah, because this time when they're in Amalfi, Thanatos gets the stone first. They find the Cathedral of St. Andrew in Amalfi. They walk up to it, and then motorcycle gang busts out and like shoots at them and drives off. And we're like, oh, they got here first for once. Awesome. And we have a high-speed chase that's instantly over. And we get Mad Dog Morgan.
She fucking tortures the guy. She just pops him in the knee.
Yeah, she straight kneecaps him.
I don't care about your life. And he's like, if they find me, they'll kill me. Please take me with you. She goes, that's not my problem. And she walks away like a total badass. And you're like, you're a bad person, Morgan. Yeah. You're horrible.
And she even says,
like, let this guy go with you.
Back off, Timber. This one's mine.
Yeah.
Like just full Dirty Harry.
She like points a gun at Jake. Can you get away from me, please? I'm trying to record.
There's a pod dog.
Pet tax.
Oh, he's standing on the ground, by the way. That's just his head.
It's the big guy, yeah.
The big one.
Fuck off.
Podgad.
What's the dog's name?
This is Bear. We did not name him. It would have been something way more creative if it was named by us.
Oh.
He was named by little tiny
trying to nook with you.
Oh, he just asked with me.
He's so loving. He's just the biggest, cuddliest, sweetest thing. We're buddies.
My other cat's named Mouse, so I feel you on that one.
Mouse is the name of the cat in Dresden Files.
Oh.
It's a magical cat. Because he's a wizard. So you're in good stead. Is this when we have our full-on tourist brochure for how beautiful Jerusalem is?
Yes.
Even though it's really scary? Because like Morgan's like, everybody's going to start shooting at every given time, and there's going to be suicide bombs at any given second, and everybody's on edge all the time.
Yeah.
But it's the most beautiful place you could ever describe.
Because this starts off with a really nice description of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the most sacred church in the Christian world. And then we go right to Morgan's POV and her time in Israel growing up. And in quotes, this country thrived on a fast-moving river of bloodshed and violence.
That is very apt.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. Thank you.
Sure.
Accurate.
And they have to find the stones. And she's just like, we have to go ask questions of Coptic priests. Don't know which Coptic priest, but we'll find one and ask him questions about the stone. He'll trust us immediately.
And the Coptic priest has a little tiny cupola on the top of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, because that's the only place they'll let the Coptic monks hang out. And he's the only single Coptic monk in the whole city of Jerusalem, apparently. This is like Eastern Coptic.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many different variations, I'm not sure.
A lot of
Armenian.
This is Ethiopian Coptic.
The last one was Armenian. This one's Ethiopian. A lot of these old churches are churches built on top of churches and next to churches and in other churches.
Yeah.
And if you want a fascinating read about how like all these churches occupied the same space at the same time, Google the immovable ladder.
Okay.
Because on a church like this, there's a ladder that's been in place. It was put there by a workman because he was doing like window washing, and it has not been moved in 300 years because all 6 of the churches have to agree at the same time on the same thing to make any change to this church. And this ladder's been there for 300 years, and there's like a folding chair near it that's also been there for a long time because somebody put it down and left.
That's wild.
And it gets into
That's diabolical. What else can you leave there?
Unbelievably Byzantine.
Here's a bust of Alf.
Politics for these churches. There's entire documentaries on this ladder, just because it goes into so much history.
Oh, that's great.
That's wild.
It's a great read.
Oh, she finds a Coptic priest after all of that. She does find one. The one. Lucky her. Turns out he doesn't trust them at first, the Coptic priest. But then he gives them the stone. I'm like, what is this, Columbo? Like when he gets to the bad guy adjacent guy, he's like, you gotta tell me everything. He's like, no, my cousin will go to jail. No, you really have to tell me. Okay, here's everything. That's what this chapter was.
That's the dialogue for this entire book.
Yeah. Oh, hello, stranger. Stone? Yeah, stone. Oh, here you go. No problem.
So then they go from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. I meant to look up how long that would take. Let's say half an hour. So they get right there. They have a nice lunch. They feel stuck and powerless. Morgan calls Monk Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Monk Ben heads.
This would have really started dragging for me. I'm like, just find the fucking stone and let's get to the final confrontation. Like, why are we putting the brakes on right now?
Well, because then the book would be too short.
Well, then we have to bring Carl Jung into this.
It would be a short story.
Oh my god, there's so much Carl Jung. Like, the next 3 chapters, like, all of these heists so far have taken like 8 pages. This one takes about 40. There's so much detail.
Okay, let me take this.
Back history and false starts and red herrings and over to Nancy.
Carl Jung, founder of psychology. One of the founding fathers of psychology. He had apparently a mental breakdown from 1913 to 1929, which is 16 years if you don't want to do the math. He wrote a big red book about it.
It's a long mental breakdown.
Yes.
We've all been there.
And Carl Jung, yada yada, goes... His roots go back to the Grand Master Monk, which Ben converses with, and then tells our duo to go off to Tunisia. And the stone is in a madrasa.
And also, thank God Morgan is an expert on Carl Jung because she has dual degrees in religion and psychology.
And this is where we start to get our dungeon crawling elements.
Yes.
There's 2 major dungeon crawls in this movie, and they're very, very small and all brief. But the wadi that the fortress is the home to extremists. And this is when you were talking about Topper.
Mm-hmm.
They don't say what kind of extremists. They're just generic Muslim extremists. Like, that's it.
No, she doesn't even say Muslim.
It doesn't even say Muslim, which is why in my notes...
It's just extremist.
I chose to believe that this is the Bundy clan from Montana.
This is about grazing rights.
Yes.
Seriously, grazing rights.
In the desert.
You know that dude he just had to pay like $200 and there wouldn't have been a standoff.
And we are once again reminded that Morgan is a homicidal maniac because she thinks, sure, Everett and Thanatos were the true enemy, but she would let her rage out in Tunisia.
Why?
She's just gonna shoot him.
She hasn't until now?
Yeah. I was like, what? Girl, hold on.
And they get 3 commandos to join them, which is good. They finally get help because this is very important. Everybody keeps telling them how important this is. Nobody's willing to help it on their own. Or join up.
You're absolutely correct.
You have to save the world, but we can only give you an airplane.
And we're going to be very...
I'm busy. I've got a dinner with a cousin.
And we're going to be very micromanagey about how you need to get this done. You need to send us reports every 6 hours. But it's just you 2 against the world.
Oh, there was a great bit of wordplay here. She describes a staircase that they get stuck on with the firefight. And it's an endless staircase that goes in every direction. I was like, who designed this building? MC Escher? It is just The way she writes it, I can't tell which way do these stairs go. Do they go up? Do they go down? Do they go sideways? It was great. It was like it is in the book, arcane. It makes you feel dizzy and disoriented, and sometimes grand buildings have grand staircases, and you can get switched about. And this is a very good description of this. It feels like a bottomless pit.
And there are some, like, I really enjoyed, there was some serious writing craft in here that she really did do a lot of work. Like, and you can attribute some of that surreality, I suppose we could call it, of the staircase to, like, the fact that they are in a high adrenaline situation. Like, is she just reacting to things because they're in a firefight and she cannot fully perceive what's going on around her? Is that, like, her being an unreliable narrator for a few seconds? Like, we don't know. I thought I really enjoyed some of the things in here that, like, it could or could not be concrete or abstract.
Yes, it could just be fatigue, unreliable narrator stuff.
We also get this book's second moment of horniness, where in the middle of it all, Jake admires Morgan's slight curves under her body armor.
Sexy body armor.
That's
Hello
it.
and welcome to...
Drop that in.
And I'm like, bro, stay on task. We have a timeline. We have a deadline.
To be fair, this is 1% as bad as Clive Cussler.
Right.
Who would have taken an entire page to talk about... crap. We did this episode, this episode came out yesterday. I cannot remember the name of the EPA lady who Dirk wanted to sleep with and who immediately died to avoid that.
Oh
no! but would have spent so much time talking about her.
She was near age appropriate, so she had to get killed.
Right.
Oh my god.
A competent woman, get out of my book.
Well, I think we have a mummy reference in the dungeon crawl. And I was like, ooh,
I believe so.
Yay for mummy reference.
Because they reference Indy in here specifically, and they reference the mummy. I forget exactly what the reference was.
Yeah,
scarab.
Yeah, the scarab.
Ah, the scarab,
beetles. I hate beetles. Is what Jake says.
You hate beetles? Beetles are the coolest
Hello.
ever. Or the Beatles.
No, the Beatles.
Nobody likes George Harrison. Thank you.
Take.
I am so glad we agree.
Stunted music for decades.
I just know
That's it. Get off my podcast.
The scarabs climbing, the scarabs under the skin in the mummy, like that was my fear. Like I was terrified.
That stuck with
when
me.
That came out, that was so high tech. Seeing that was so realistic, and you watch it now, and you're like, "Oh my god, was this?
Right.
Did they draw this with crayon?"
Right.
But back then, it was so realistic.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
It's like, no bugs, they'll crawl under my skin.
Morgan feels guilty.
Because everybody knows that your skin is just like a loose outer covering that you can move around. Really. It's not attached with anything.
No, you have seams. If it gets under the seam...
Oh, yeah.
That invisible zipper in the back. Like...
Oh my god, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that definitely made my skin crawl.
You're constantly terrified somebody's going to run up behind you and just unzip it and just walk out of your skin suit.
Just splorch. Oh, no, God. I need that to live.
Not my skin.
Stevie's been decayed.
I also marked down Snake.
They're in Worcester. God damn it, people! They went to Worcester.
We're not there yet. Hold on.
I also
You're
wrote
skipping
down.
the dungeon crawl.
I'm so sorry. I also wrote down snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? I couldn't resist.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was snakes and scorpions at the same time. I don't think she could pick which one to use.
You have to use all of them.
And next, it's worse. It's bugs. But anyway.
Anyway, they go to Worcester. After all that, I'm sorry, folks. They wind up in Worcester, Massachusetts, off of Route 1 near the Cappy's liquor store. That's not a stretch. There's always a Cappy's liquor store on Route 1 in Massachusetts.
On the way to Worcester, like, Morgan's on the airplane. So, long story short, there was a mystery box in the bottom of this citadel in the middle of the desert, and there was just a piece of paper with a sketch by Carl Jung in it. So, on the airplane, Morgan's like, what does this mean? Oh, I can't think of it. What does this mean? Oh, this. Which I assume is just like her sitting there rolling dice, and she gets a nat 1 followed by a nat 20. Like, you just attempt the skill check again. She's like, oh, I can't think of it. Yes, I can. And she remembers all of her Jung.
Yes, it's a circle and a square.
Yeah, it's a mandala. Everything's a mandala for some reason.
And there's lots of imagery about wasps for some reason.
And describing a mandala as a circle within a square is extremely reductive, I think. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you ever see a mandala, it's like the gorgeous, intricate, loops within loops and turns and everything and all this stuff. And she's just like, it's a circle within a square. Nope, okay.
Basically.
The funny thing is there's a Worcester in Ohio too. So you said Worcester, and I'm literally thinking of like Rust Belt.
Do you spell yours like Worcester or Worcester, like the way it's spelled for?
No, ours is Wooster. Worcester.
Okay.
Yeah. Normal people.
That's the most hillbilly shit.
The way normal people spell it.
Massachusetts is Worcester.
Oh, that is
Worcester.
That's a thing.
Because that makes perfect sense. And we always complain about French having fake silent letters in there. Like, there's tons of English words that are just like, well, what do you, like Leicester? Leicester is spelled Leicester. Like, what are we doing? What are you doing?
We have to get, like, the Gaelics into this if you want, consonants to vowel comparison.
Nah.
His name is Ian. It's 57 letters long. All right.
There's a G in there somewhere. I don't know what we're doing. So they go to Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts, and
1 minute. Worcester, you have a university? Good for you, Worcester. I'm so proud of you. Go on.
And they're there because it was the last place Carl Jung hung out with his best friend Freud before they hated each other.
And then Freud makes no other impact on the story at all because we're talking about a physicist. What's the physicist's name? I can't remember.
I didn't write that down. It's just that there's a physicist and a genetic engineer from the early 1900s, of which there were so many.
Sure. Well, that's why he's so famous.
Oh, fuck yeah. We don't know what DNA is yet, but guess what I did, guys?
I put a horse head on a dog. It's immoral. I'm going to hell. But look what I did.
Well, Mendel's got like 87 different species of beans because he's just sitting here pollinating and stuff. You see my squares? I got 87 different kind of beans. Like, some of these beans can talk. You never know if you see more. But like, they go into
Lego genetics. I love it.
They go into this room, and there's no freaking way in hell. This is where my suspension of disbelief is like, boo. It's like, there's a rug in a square room, and it's a round rug, and nobody in 90 years moved this rug. Nobody was like, oh, we have to move this and clean underneath it. Oh, hey, there's a trapdoor. Or, this rug is 90 years old and it smells like butt. So now we have to get a new rug. And that rug is a rectangle inside a square room. She would have just kept walking. We never would have found the stuff.
Well, you see, there's this ladder, and nobody can move. I assume.
And that makes the rug.
But once again, Thanatos follows them in reverse. And as soon as they find the trapdoor, Thanatos walks in and just beats the shit out of both of them.
Oh, yeah, they take some damage.
And that rug is now available on Facebook Marketplace. Lightly used, no pets.
Every time somebody has tried to move that rug in 90 years, somebody runs in, hey, that's Freud's rug. Don't touch Freud's rug. But it smells like butts. Sigmund Freud sat on that rug.
The dog scooted on it. No.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Then Morgan gets poisoned unconscious.
Well, that's at the end. You're skipping all the good stuff.
I do have to make dinner, folks. And the last time I skipped making dinner, my husband and son ate a catering-sized bucket of ice cream.
Oh, no.
Well, in that case, we'll fast forward this.
Sounds like dinner to me.
That broke off. Don't pay attention.
Thanatos takes Morgan downstairs, yada, yada, yada. They find a room full of genetically engineered super wasps, which nobody at Clark University has noticed.
Because they're right underneath the botanical garden. Nobody's noticed these crazy wasps for 90 years coming or just pollinating their botanical garden.
Maybe it's by the train.
And they lose a whole bunch of mooks until Morgan figures out that you have to take the key that she found underneath the rug and turn the right lock, which flashbangs the wasps, I guess. And then you can open up the mystery box that has the stone inside. And as soon as she has it, she gets chloroformed and dragged upstairs. But by the time they get up there, Jake has already overpowered his captors.
Yeah.
Off screen, yeah. With no effort.
Oh yeah, he's fine.
He got beat up, but now But they brought all the stones with them.
I have that in all caps.
Yes.
Couldn't you leave them on the fucking airplane?
Right.
Or at least, a safety deposit box?
Right? Or like some secret compartment, or like...
Put it in, you have to, when you get the sacred stone, you have to put it into another MacGuffin. So later on, the people that come after us have a MacGuffin to go after.
Yes,
It's like once you harvest a tree, you have to plant 10 more.
Yes.
Anyway.
It's responsible.
Oh, we see Morgan again. She reappears being carried by a henchman.
Yep.
It's as sexy as you get in this book. Fireman carried by a henchman. Jake and Morgan fight it out, and Jake tries to steal his stones and leaves Morgan tied to something I can't make out my handwriting. What is she tied to? Anybody?
She's like zip tied to a desk.
Oh, okay.
But Jake...
He beats the crap out of her, too.
Jake beats the crap out of her, apologizing the whole time. Like, sorry, bam. Sorry,
Yeah.
I don't really mean to do this, bam.
It was very confusing.
I'm just following order.
I was like, what?
I think you're
what
really
is
pretty.
happening
Bam.
here? Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Have you said that before? And
Like,
Topper, that was too casual for you.
he's writing what he knew. That's kind of terrifying.
High school was weird, okay?
Do we need to send help?
I'll blink twice for no. Okay.
The next super short section, the only note I have is Everett is bad. Next, please.
Oh, but he's bad in a biosphere.
Yeah, he's in Biosphere 2.
I wrote a lot of notes for this, but we also don't really need them.
Anyone listening to this, you don't know what the Biosphere is? Go look up Biosphere 2. It was a catastrophe and a great human experiment that is not addressed in this book, but it is fascinating. Go look it up.
It involved Pauly Shore.
Very interesting.
Yes, I was going to say Pauly Shore was there. It was wild.
And now because Everett is Scary Billionaire, he owns Biosphere 2, and that's where our final confrontation is going to come to.
I think you just get it for free.
This was just wild to me. I don't know. I was like...
Faye's in the Biosphere making dinner, and then Faye's tied to a funeral pyre, so they better get a move on.
This is the first thing that she does in this book is peel a carrot. Everything else has just been stuff happening to her, but now that she's finally in charge of her own actions, she's peeling a carrot. And then she gets taken up and tied to a funeral pyre. Like, nope, you can't do anything. Stop it.
She's cried a lot, and then she peeled a carrot.
Okay, that's true. Okay. Fair enough.
Well, she comforted the child.
Yes.
Morgan comes to the Biosphere. Once Everett has Faye and Gemma up on top, ready to burn them alive, because it's the day of Pentecost, Morgan comes, and she just randomly stopped in the parking lot of the 7-Eleven and grabbed 12 rando stones and put them in a bag.
Yep.
Yeah, she wasn't even like shopping for like round stones, like gravel. She had a bag full of gravel.
He won't know what they look like, even though he has one.
This tactic never works. It never worked.
Never.
Didn't they try this in the Uncharted?
Yes.
Yeah.
And several other stories that I can think of off the top of my head. Like,
absolutely.
No, they know the difference, okay?
This is also an important point. So Thanatos is trying to get all the stones together so they can, like, unleash religious apocalypse upon the world. At no point do they go after Joe, who has one.
Right.
Not
but
once.
They know about it. Everybody knows about it. But you remember, like, Joseph Everett already knew that Arcane abandoned Morgan. So why would he even for a second think that those stones were real? Like, he already knew because somebody told him that she'd been abandoned by these guys. And why would he even think that she would still have them if Arcane are a powerful government organization? They're not just going to let this lady, oh yeah, bring them back Tuesday. It'll be fine. Like,
well, sometimes you get lost with focus.
No.
You can't see the forest for the trees. You just have to hammer here, right here.
Well, I appreciated about Morgan that her sole purpose was to save her sister. Like, she was not distracted by anything else. Like, she was not like morally driven or any other reason but to just, hey, I don't care. Sure, if you want these stones, go ahead, take them, bro. Like, I'm gonna take care. I want my sister back.
It's a reverse Inigo Montoya.
Yep.
Give me fame. Give me fortune. Give me my sister back, you son of a bitch. That's all he wants. That's all she wants.
That's all she wants. Sure, I kissed her husband. It's fine. I just need my niece and my sister back.
Unfortunately, Joe realizes that the stones are fake, and he's gonna light Faye on fire. But then Jake arrives, and he actually does have the stones.
He Nightcrawler's into the situation too.
He's in the same room at the top of the biosphere already. Just like walks out of the bushes. Hey, by the way, I'm here and I have stones. Like, how did you get past the guards? The guards already beat up Morgan and took her gun.
Right.
You're just like popped out of the closet.
This guy.
He was like, "Hi, how are you?" And
ever been fishing for marlins, Doctor?
The weather's going crazy at this point because the stones and the comet
there's a giant
are
mystery storm
happening
outside.
in the middle of Arizona, which
does
tons of rain, I guess, is a
have
thing.
an equal amount of people drown in the desert as die of thirst because of flash floods in the U.S.
That makes complete sense.
And we establish once again how lifeless the prose is, because now Joe has all the stones, and he's like standing next to this funeral pyre with his brother. The stones are glowing, the storm's going crazy, and he says, "It has begun. The 12 are reunited. I call their power down from heaven."
He just says that in a very conversational tone. Exactly in that deadpan way you just said.
No exclamation points.
Screaming into this night.
And the dome explodes from the storm. And he's just like, wow, that's cool.
But the dome in the biosphere is the whole structure. It's all dome. It's just an upside down cup on the world. It is.
What?
Mm-hmm.
What? Did the very top break or the whole thing shatter? Because we're gonna have some problems if the whole thing shattered.
So it gets hit by lightning, and she describes the rain of glass shards, which I kind of wanted a mini scene of henchmen getting impaled by glass shards coming down, as somebody looks up and gets his whole head bisected.
Yeah. Final Destination style. Just drop the knives.
I want violence.
This would have been a sea of bloodshed, like she described earlier.
It would have been shredded to death.
Death by 5,000 cuts.
But while that's happening, Morgan rescues Faye and no one notices. Jake comes back after being chased by the guards and rescues Gemma, and no one notices. And all four of them just kind of sneak out the back door and no one notices.
And Michael can stand suddenly because he's got stone proximity.
Because Michael, it's really hard to say exactly what happened. I did like that because Michael stands up and hugs Joe, and then just a bolt of flame just nukes the place.
Yes, that they explode together in a hug, an explosive hug.
How do you feel? So we talk about satisfying villain deaths on our show. How do you feel that this was in the scale of satisfying villain deaths? So 1 to 5.
I kind of liked it.
I don't think a villain should care about his siblings.
Well, that's the one thing he cares about is his brother. Nothing else.
So that makes him a tamer, kind of.
Just like Morgan only cares about her sister.
Ooh, themes.
He's not completely bloodthirsty. So 4 to 5.
I think about the fact, okay, I don't think that I would. I love my brother, right? Love you, bro. But not to the fact.
What are you about to say?
What?
You're qualifying something.
I forgot your brother and sister. I was just about to drop siblings really don't go this far for each other. But
however, I don't think I would not set a homeless man on fire to save you. There's just a line you don't cross.
I'll take that. I wouldn't want a homeless man set on fire.
It's just I'll do what I can.
And you would make a terrible villain. Look at that. A fictitious rando homeless man. You won't even burn him.
I would be I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm
terrible villain.
I'm so sorry, guys. I apologize. This is all a misunderstanding.
My sister lives a quarter mile away. We haven't spoken in months. We get along fine.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how many homeless people do you love me? Did you kill 3? Did you kill 7?
No, you have to phrase, how many homeless people will you immolate for me? Because otherwise, how many homeless people will you foster for me or house for me? That could be an open-ended sentence, and we're off topic, folks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we have to finish this up because everybody has to go.
And that's the end of our narrative.
Oh, Morgan is in the house with Faye and Gemma, yay, and Jake and Morgan hold hands. That's the.
And she's offered a job at Arcane, and she's like, no, fuck off.
You people are crazy.
And Marietti says, sure, we were going to kill your sister, but admit it, you had fun, right? Morgan's like, yeah, I did. Also, fuck off, and she still leaves. But they drop so many more hints for future books, like your parents knew about Thanatos. Ben knows your parents. We have so much more backstory to get to. Come on.
There's private jets. You're never going to give up the private jets. Right. Once you've been on one, you're not giving it up, lady. Morgan, be real. You want the resources.
I've flied way too much economy to shut that down.
Do you want to go back to your boring job, or do you want to keep shooting people in foreign countries?
And getting away with it.
She's like, well, it wasn't the idea.
Oh,
Jeez,
yeah.
Louise.
Oh, that's dark.
Oh, no.
So, before we go...
And I'm canceled.
Yeah, you are.
How do you... So, the point of this exercise of reading this book was to kind of like give us or give you guys, because you guys have to deal with the shit, give you a breath of different air from Clive. How do you feel like this was a positive thing or a negative thing?
Definitely positive, because we got to meet you two.
Oh,
For
thanks.
Sure. That's
how
first
nice.
and foremost. And it was so different because it's so agnostic against sex, and everything Clive Cussler writes, even when it's not intended to be, it's an innuendo, because he's just used to words that have to do with engines, like thrusting and torque and stuff, and it kind of gets some crossover with how horny he is. And there's none of that in this book.
Yes, this book is not horny at all. This is the book of somebody who loves travel, who loves foreign exotic locations, and killing non-specific mooks to save the good guys.
Yes, and mooks in this one, when I was a kid, mooks were losers whose moms were fat. That's what mook meant.
Oddly specific.
So, like, if you had if your mom chased after you, you're like, "Oh, Timmy, you forgot your inhaler," and she's fat and like she trips, you're a mook.
Oh no!
So it doesn't have any. I understand that there's other connotations to the word that are very unkind and possibly racially insensitive. We're not going. We're going with the schoolyard. The schoolyard version of mook, not any kind of whatever. They took the OK symbol. They can't take the word mook from us. Mook is just a loser kid. It is not. There's no racial intonations with the word mook for us, and I'm not looking for them.
Mooks and goons just mean henchmen. I did not mean anything to your community or your people. I'm sorry.
We have single-handedly canceled ourselves in 2 hours.
In every possible arena of modern life.
But according to your definition, Nancy, that means that every single henchman for hire, gun hand in this book, started on a very treacherous road because their mom tripped trying to give them
Yes.
no longer asthmatic. They are just burning with shame from their mom falling down the stairs when they were a kid.
Shame and hatred for the public.
And she may or may not have been overweight.
And this is the only job they can hold down now. Them and the art school students, all they can do is work for supervillains.
At least make your kids go to magic camp. If they're going to go to art school, send them to magic camp.
Yes.
There you go.
Magic camp. All the cool kids there.
So how did we feel about the book? Did somebody like it? Did anybody not like it? I know that I felt like it was not received nearly as well as I would have imagined.
It was a happy, fast rate.
I was going to say, I have complicated feelings just because it's so short. It's like 209 pages. It's basically a novella, not a novel. The prose was definitely focused more on scene setting than action or dialogue or characterization, which is sort of what I come to books for. But I am also realizing that this is an ebook bestseller, and there's thousands of ebook bestsellers that are like meant to have a book that you can read the whole adventure start to finish on one airplane ride, and your Kindle has 100 of them on there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is brilliant.
So this is like my first dip into this entire genre of, I won't say microfiction, but very short thriller fiction. And there's fucking tons of this out there. So I feel I have to explore more of it now to get a real opinion of it.
Well, and I felt like I like a good...
Fix the dialogue, though.
Right. I like a good cozy mystery, just something that's...
This is cozy.
And this is a cozy adventure. I texted Zach and I was like, okay, this is my first cozy adventure. I kind of like it, You don't have to do a lot of thinking. You don't have to do a lot of connecting the dots. It is what it is. And we wrapped up our story in a nice little package, and I can move on. So I liked it in that sense, and it was refreshing to have a female protagonist and a female author writing this genre. I enjoyed it. I do have some religious drama, so I was like, oh wow, this is very religious, but it was fine. A lot of those artifacts, a lot of that stuff is rooted in that, and there's so much history and there's so much there that it's just an obvious jumping off point for a lot of this genre of things. So yeah, sure. I enjoyed it. In fact, I kind of want to read some more like of these. I like this series.
It did seem like a prologue because I'm used to people going on and on and on. I'm used to having 800 pages in a book. For this to only be 200 pages, it felt like a pamphlet. It was so tiny.
And when you read these books, you kind of have to like, most of the time, they're like gigantic tomes, and you got to go back and like, wait, what was this and where is the, you know what I mean? A lot of connecting the dots and a lot of thinking. And this was none of that, but all of the adventure.
No thinking.
I'll take it.
That's what it was. It was a popcorn movie in book form.
Yeah. Yes, agreed.
And it was delightful. And I have to go. I love you guys.
Okay.
It was
okay. I'm so sorry.
All right. That's okay.
Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye.
We'll leave it running and you guys do whatever.
Awesome. Okay. Well, if we want to wrap it up here, I can write an outro for this. But once again, thank you for having the Escapist Room on the Cussler Hustlers. Where can people find you? Pimp yourselves out again.
We are the Escapist Room movie podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcast platforms. Just search Escapist Room Movie Pod, and you'll find us. We are also on Instagram at Escapist Room Movie Pod, and I am Z Reynolds Wright on Instagram. So come find us. Leave us a review, say something, say hi. You can also email us at escapistroommoviepod@gmail.com. All right, thank you very much.
To save her sister, Jake Timber has to try and find the stones. Thanatos wants to destroy the whole world. Some random guy gets up to no good.